Good morning, everyone. Yaritza back from Guyanese Accounting with another seminar. Today we're going to be talking about the JobKeeper for the businesses and solo traders. First of all, thank to all those clients for being patient. They have been waiting for this seminar for a couple of days, but there was a lot of reading that needs to be done before I can bring you guys the right information. Okay, so go and grab yourselves a cup of coffee. I will need your full attention for this one. It's going to be a little bit longer than the usually is. And let's start. For anyone up there that don't know us, my name is Yaritza Salazar, and I'm coming from Guyanese Accounting. We are an accounting company with offices in Sydney, in Melbourne, Adelaide, and Brisbane. We are a CPA company. We specialize in small businesses, as well individuals and financials and everything regarding accounting. Before we start, I just need to do a disclaimer. This is general information only. If you want any specific information for your circumstances, we always recommend to check with an accountant or your tax advisor. What I will be talking today is, first of all, we're going to check who can apply, how do we apply to this JobKeeper, and some important factors to consider. Let's start. Okay. So how is the JobKeeper? The JobKeeper application process is going to be open on the 20th of April, so in 4 days' time. It's going to happen through tax agents or through your account, your business account, or what we used to call the AUSKI account that you used to have through your business. At the moment, the only thing that we can do is what we call register your interest. Many clients call me thinking that because they did this, the process is finished. It's not. This is just, as the name says, register your interest. The proper application, where you put all the information that the ATO needs to review your application, is not open yet. So, if you haven't done this, please go and register your interest. Second, we're going to check, are we eligible or not? So we're going to check two parts, the employer and the employee. Okay, so and the business. So now I'm talking here to the business. When I say the business, I'm talking everybody else except a solo trader. To be eligible for this JobKeeper, your income must drop by 30%. This is like the number one thing that we have to show the ATO. What the ATO, or how they're going to check, they say at this moment, what we're going to check is your turnover, that usually you put it in your bases this year against 2019. How they're going to check it? So they just need to know if in any month from March to September your income dropped by 30%, then you should be able to apply for this JobKeeper. We are in the middle of April. So many people probably March didn't drop by 30%, but as a business, we had to use kind of a crystal ball to do our projections and assume that in one of these months from here to here, our income is going to drop 30%. The good thing is, if you satisfy that in 1 month, you don't have to satisfy that in every month. Just with 1 month satisfying that 30% is enough. So either we check March to September, or we do quarterly bus, we check our June bus and our September bus. We had some businesses that maybe just started this year. So for this business, the ATO may require extra information. So in these ones, maybe some inter accounts or some monthly statements. So we're waiting for more information, especially for these kind of businesses. The same thing, we had what we call high growth businesses, businesses that had increased a lot from last year. Some of them increased 20, 30, or even up to 50%. So if we're going to compare against the 2019, obviously they haven't dropped by 30%. But in these businesses, the ATO also, we were in guidelines to tell, probably last month, the last 2 months, to make sure that we drop this 30% instead of comparing into last year, 2019. But if you are in a small business, you know that your sales have reduced by 30%. Tick this box, we do to the next box. Did I had an eligible employee at the 1st of March? So what this means is you have to have payroll, you have to be registered for pay as you go, you must be sending your payments through single touch point. If you had employees previously to the 1st of March, you may have superannuation payments, and this is what the ATU is going to check, what we call to do a genuine application. What happened is some people saw this and they say, I'm going to be very smart and I'm going to register my pay as you go from the 1st of March, so the ATO gave me this money and I'm going to put employees. It's not going to be as simple as that. They had until avoidance provision in the legislation where it says that if you participate in any scheme that has been created with the whole sole purpose of access to these benefits where you were not entitled to it, you will have to pay the money back, and they won't allow these schemes, because the idea of this is for genuine business that really need the help. Okay, so if I'm a business and I check these two and I tick, what are we going to do next? So I have my employees that I check they are entitled to it. Then what happened is I had to pay them at least $1,500 every fortnightly. So what happened is we are now already in the middle of April. So when my quarter of the 12th of April pass, I have to pay them $750 a week or $1,500 fortnight. For those ones that I decide to reemploy, I must pay them $1,500. I cannot reemploy them and pay them less. These $1,500 are taxable, so really they are going to get around $1,300 in the pocket. So this is when some of my employers has the problem and say, Yaritza, I do not have the money. Do I actually have to physically pay the money to them? And I say, yes, you have to. Because if you don't pay this money, then you won't be entitled to the refund. So for example, if in the quarter of April you pay them $650 instead of $750 a week, you won't get reimbursed for $650 because you didn't pay them the $1,500 that the ATO wants you to pay to be entitled to the JobKeeper. The same thing if I had an employee and I pay him less than $1,500, I had to raise their salary to this amount to be able to get the JobKeeper. Let's jump to a couple of examples, a few examples to make this clear, the way I like it to you guys to understand it so you can get this. Okay. So the fortnightlies that we're going to claim every month, once the application open on the 20th, are these ones, 12. So what do I need for all the business clients up there is make sure that you pay your employees by this day, by this day, by this day, by these days, and so on. Because only the payments done in that period is the ones that I will be able to claim for you guys when we do the lodgement application. So these days are very important to make sure that the money for the employees come out on those quarterly payments. Let's jump to our example. Okay, so here I have Nick. Nick is one of those employees that are going to be happy with this JobKeeper. So Nick keep working with me. I usually pay him $1,000 every 2 weeks. He's eligible for this JobKeeper payment. So what happened now is from the 30th of March, every 2 weeks or every fortnight, I had to pay him $1,500. So Nick has got a pay rise straight away, and he doesn't need to work any more extra hours. So I will have to pay him on the fortnightly or the 12th, $1,500. $1,000 is going to come up from my pocket, and $500 I will expect back on May from the government. So that's how it's going to work. That's how Nick get his $1,500, and I get my money back on the 15th of May. This is another example. So, for example, Annie, she works with me. She's a full-time. She earns $3,000 fortnightly. So what is going to happen is I'm going to pay her $3,000 normally. I apply for the JobKeeper for her, and I will pay $1,500 from my pocket, and I get reimbursed this one in May. So the idea that she cost me only $1,500 instead of $3,000, which is really good for me as a business. She's happy, I'm happy, so that's fantastic. We had Joe. So Joe used to work with me, very important, on the 1st of March. Things didn't go so well for the business, so I decided to let him go, right? We have been in contact with Joe, and he said, I want you to be eligible for the JobKeeper with you guys. And he signed the declaration, which I will be talking in a minute about that. So what I do is here, as a business, I had to get $1,500 from my pocket, pay Joe $1,500, and the ATO is going to get me that money back. Here is very important. Joe doesn't need to come back and work. It's only if he decides if he wants to come back to me to work or not. But because he was my employee at the 1st of March and he is not working anywhere else, I have to pay the JobKeeper for him. I hope so with those 3 examples it's a little bit more clear. Now, this is I need you guys to get it. All the business owners up there, please get this one. Do not pay your employees unless they have signed this nomination. Okay, it's here. Please go there and get it. I hope so your accountant has sent you this already. For all these eligible employees. This is very important because what happens is if from the goodness of my heart, I go and pay them the $1,500 and then he doesn't want me to claim the JobKeeper, I won't get the money back. So this is a vital part of it. Another good news for us as a business owner is the superannuation is not payable in the $1,500. It's only payable in whatever extra I had to top up to pay the salary. So in our example, in our previous example, we had someone that had to pay $3,000. So my superannuation is going to be only in the $1,500 that is coming physically from my pocket. What do I need everybody to start getting for this application? First of all, this is the vital part. We had to show the ATO. My income goes down 30%. They're going to say, perfect, now we're going to check that. How do they going to check that? They're going to look up, they're going to look our tax returns. They're going to check. Ideally, the tax return has to be up to date, ideally. If it's not, at least you need to be updated with your bases. With some clients, we had to have what we call the inter-financial accounts, just to make it clear for the ATO how much has varied the income for our clients. If you had budget or you have cash projections, all this is going to help you to satisfy this 30%. So once we are happy with the 30%, you work out your number. Is what I said, we had to work with a little crystal ball because in my March one was a good month. I had to try to find out in my April, May, June, July, September, August, September is going to get down. So, but you could do that with your accountant, with these projections. Once that's done, something that you need to do is which employees are eligible, right? So obviously you need to send them the form for them to fill it up, but you also have to do the due diligence that to make sure that that information is correct. Were they employed on the 1st of March with me? This is very easy. They were in my payroll, yes or no. 16 years old, perfect. They had to be Australian resident. In this one, maybe if you had temporary residence or you're not sure, recommendation is maybe ask them a copy of the visa just to make sure that they are Australian residents. But you will know this because usually only Australian resident has access to Centrelink. So if your employees does not have access to Centrelink benefits, usually for this purpose of the JobKeeper, they won't be entitled either. So they had to be residents. I think this is the visa for all the people from New Zealand. So once you check that, you say, okay, he's full-time, part-time, easy. He's casual. So let's see, this casual employer has been with me for more than 12 months in a regular and systematic basis. They haven't exactly tell us how they're going to evaluate this. If it's 1 a week, twice a week. So they just had there. So I don't know how they're going to check that. But they will be able to see how regularly you work through the single touch point. So they maybe do base their decision in that. Something very important with the casual, which is a quite good news, is that if a casual works within the group or companies, the 12 months are going to be valid for the group. What I mean is, for example, I work 3 months, say, in calls, another 3 months in office works, and another 3 months, say, in Myers. If these companies are all from the same group for GST purposes, then the ATO will allow me to count those 12 months for the JobKeeper, which is really good. And important as before, had they give us the required notice. So once all these get tick, 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 then I'm happy to start paying my employees the JobKeeper. A little note here, and I had a few calls from my clients that they didn't know how to reduce the hours of the employees. They were confused if they need to cancel the contract, if they need to fire them, or what they need to do. So after this, the Fair Work Act has been changed, and they are allowed to employers that had employees with permanent or part-time to reduce their hours up to 40%, giving them a 3-day notice, and it's fine. So an example, I had someone who worked 5 days a week. I will say, look, we need to reduce 3 days a week because this is, it's normal work. Things are not going really well. And then that's fine. Fair Work say you are entitled to that, no problem. The only condition they're telling us is you cannot change the hourly rate. They must be the same. But then this is going to fix and solve a lot of headaches that we were having with some employers. Finally, so we know who can get it. Now, who cannot get it? So employers that are getting parental payments, who are in working compensations, they cannot get it. And employees that may have chosen another employer. What is this? Let me explain this a little bit better. So what happened is the ATO said you can only claim it from one employer, and we want that employer to be your main or permanent employer. So let's, for example, I had a casual job, which is my permanent employment. That employer is doing really well, and he didn't need to apply for the JobKeeper. But I also had a casual job in which I have been there more than 12 months. And I decide, you know what? I'm going to keep working for this guy, and I'm going to do this casual job that they are able to claim the JobKeeper and claim it through this guy. The ATO say, no, this is what we call double dipping. You cannot do that. If you had a permanent employee, even if this casual employee is gone, you cannot claim it through him. Also, your permanent employer is what we call is the employer you claim the tax-free threshold. This is when you do your tax declaration when you start with someone. So they're going to determine who is your permanent employer, but going and checking your uh, tax declaration, who you choose to be your tax-free threshold. So yes, they just want this to be really given to people who need it and don't people trying to do double dipping. Now, so it's what I say. Now we're going to move to the self-employed. So previously I was talking to all these businesses that had people in the payroll, how to pay this JobKeeper to those people in payroll. Now we're going to talk to people who work with their own ABN or directors of companies where they may be no employees of their own company, but they pay themselves director fees at the end of the year, or they had a partnership and they get a distribution at the end of the year, or they are beneficiaries and a trust and get paid distribution at the end of the year. So these are the four ones the ATO is counting them as self-employed. In here, we're still looking a little bit more information. We're still waiting a little bit more in the eligibility for this. Hopefully by Monday we had all that up to date. But at least it's good news that one person of this self-employed can claim it, which is fantastic news. At least for a lot of my clients, this is really good news. What do they want to look, for example, with someone who has an ABN? So they say, okay, perfect. We want to see if your income reduced by 30%. Okay, so see, if you lost a bus, it's really easy. We want to check the bus from last year to the bus of this year. If you don't lose a bus, maybe they're going to say, okay, let me see your tax return. Or maybe they ask us for a profit and loss. We just had to show them that that has been reduced by 30%. Important, an active ABN. So how do they determine if your ABN is active or not? Same thing. Did you declare income last year with your ABN in your tax return? If your business is new, maybe you start your business just in January. They're saying, okay, that's fine. So I need you to sign me a declaration where you tell me that you have been active, you have been sending invoices, you have been actually being in a proper business. So in the registration process for this one, it works similar to the one for the business. In the business, I will nominate my employees. In this one, I nominate myself. So on my ABN, I do my application, and when it comes to the point who you want to nominate, you nominate yourself, right? In the legislation as well, we have that the ATO is going to require a monthly update of the income. We don't have much detail how they're going to do this, but it's in the legislation that somehow they want people with self-employed to update the ATO monthly or how their income is going. But this is for the solo traders. Very important, and I had a special client that is happening this with him. If you had a permanent job and you had an ABN, you cannot apply for the job seeker as a solo trader. So I gave you the example of my client. He has a part-time job, right? This part-time job that he has is doing well. Like they don't need to claim the JobKeeper yet because the business is open and still trading. He has his ABN, which is his supplementary income. However, he cannot go and say, and this one actually has reduced by 30%, right? But he cannot claim this one if he has this job, right? So we come back to the point of doing double dipping. So they want this JobKeeper is for people that really don't have any other job, any other source income. That's what they're trying to keep people employed. So you're already employed here and you're trying to get more money through here, you're doing double dipping. So that's what they don't want it. Bueno, I hope so you guys have been with me through this one. Had been trying to make it as clear as possible. As usual, if you had any questions or you need more help from us, this is our number, our website, and our email. So feel free to contact us if you had any more questions. For all our business clients, we will be contact you guys. We are on top of this. And well, I hope so this clarify a lot of the questions that you have, or at least I try to cover all the questions I have been getting from my clients and all the phone calls we have been receiving. As usual, had a great day. Keep in touch. Follow us in Facebook. Remember that we keep posting these videos with all the dates is on our Facebook page. Okay, have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.